Hi, and welcome to the Carnivore Stories podcast with me, Alyssa Grubner. The carnivore way of eating completely changed my life, and it's stories just like the ones you'll hear on this podcast that encouraged me to keep going every step of the way. I hope you're ready to hear an inspirational carnivore story. I know I am, so let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Carnivore Stories podcast. I am your host, Alyssa Grubner, and today I have with me Emily Penton from Missouri.
Hi.
Emily, hey. Emily is a 43-year young transformational coach with a master's in clinical counseling. She helps people break sugar and processed food addictions. You can find her on Instagram at Carnivore, Carnivore, Minds, Minds. She's also on YouTube at Center of Brilliance and on Facebook at Emily Penton. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
Yes, likewise. It is so nice to meet you. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. This is the absolute highlight of my day. I love when I get to do these.
I love interviews too. I mean, just even if we don't hit record, just connecting with another human is just like, that's what life is all about.
Yes, you are right about that. Absolutely. So, Emily, I want to start with you giving some background about your life, your lifestyle before coming to Carnivore.
My lifestyle before Carnivore was a big old mess, and not a beautiful mess. It was a very sad mess, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder probably about, I guess it's been 10, 11, 12 years ago now. But once I was diagnosed, I was able to look back and put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And I've really been suffering pretty much my whole life, especially ever since puberty. That's when I really saw the signs of it. And unfortunately, I was put on birth control to regulate my periods at 12. So that, continued this horrible disruption in my body. And it exacerbated to the point that in 2018, I had rapid cycling bipolar disorder, which means like for a typical bipolar, it'll go through different cycles and different phases where you'll kind of almost get a break where, you'll gradually get this mania, and then you'll have the mania, and then you'll gradually get the depression, and it'll just stay about there. My bipolar went into, I didn't know who I was going to be every day. From one day to the next, I would schedule my clients for Tuesday. I would wake up and I couldn't get out of bed on that Tuesday. I'd have to reschedule all of my clients. It got to the point where it was unethical for me because I couldn't have continuity of care. And I had to quit working for 6 months. And then I had my brother, he sent me the book from Amber O'Hearn, just the first chapter. And I listened to that and I realized that if someone else can have bipolar disorder, and her story was 10 plus years ago, and resolve her bipolar disorder, it's worth a shot. And so I went February 24th of 2019 to eating the standard American diet, which wasn't even kind of healthy. I was eating batches of chocolate chip cookie dough, batches of cookies, entire tubs of ice cream by myself, entire pizzas by myself, ramen noodles, chips, soda, you name it. That's what I ate. To overnight, on February 24th, 2019, eating 50% animal meat and 50% animal fat. And
wow, overnight.
Why I did that, I really attribute that to the gifts that you get whenever you're bipolar, because it's not all bad. There's some really good traits of being bipolar, and that extremist in me was just jumped in. And I'm so grateful for that I was able to just jump in full force, and I was able to transition. What I didn't know was that there was another underlying thing lurking in my body that was causing a lot of the disruption as well. And March 12th, I was hospitalized. And so a logical person would say, I started this all meat diet and now I'm in the hospital. And the reason I was hospitalized was for acute dysphagia, which means that my throat stopped swallowing. My brain literally told my throat not to swallow.
Wow.
And I couldn't even swallow water. So they did an MRI, they found lesions on my left temporal lobe, and they diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis.
Mm.
Soon after that, I couldn't walk without an assistive device. I had delayed and slurred speech, and I had more significant brain fog than I had ever had with bipolar disorder. So I was either going to the psych ward with the bipolar, or the nursing home with the MS. And something inside of me told me to keep eating 50% animal meat and 50% animal fat, and I did. And I had my last bipolar episode on April of 2019. And I had my last MS episode or symptom May 9th of 2019. And it is all resolved. And for 3 years, I have been superhuman.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. Wow. I love it.
It's crazy.
I love it. Yeah. So how long were you eating carnivore, the 50% protein, 50% fat, before you were able to resolve, before 2019, May 2019?
So I started February 24th of 2019, and then April, my bipolar episodes resolved.
Okay, so
and then I started February, and then May 9th, the MS resolved.
Wow, so that was very quick. That was, I mean,
crazy
were
quick.
You jumping up and down? And
honestly, I wasn't. It took a long time because with bipolar disorder, you are conditioned to always wait for the other shoe to drop.
Okay.
You can never trust yourself. Mm-hmm. You can never trust your emotions. You can never trust your brain. You can never trust your thoughts. You're just always waiting for something else to happen. In the same way with MS, because even through those months that I had those significant symptoms, I would have a day or a half a day where I could walk. And but the nature of MS is that it is progressing and regressing, like it goes back and forth. So I was ready for the MS to come back at any moment. I wouldn't say that I really exhaled until I got my last MRI, probably like 6 months ago. And it said there was no MS activity in my MRI.
Hallelujah.
I was just like, okay, it's not coming back. It's not coming back. And if it does, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to just do what I have to do to fight it. Because I know that is not my destiny. It is not my destiny to have bipolar disorder. It's not my destiny to have MS.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow. That's a beautiful thing. I know when I started healing and I realized I was healing, I was over the moon. I guess for me, because it was the big thing was the blood pressure. And so when I started getting those normal blood pressure readings, I was over the moon. And I feel like I drove my husband crazy because I was just like, Dylan, I'm back from the dead. Like for real. Have you ever heard about Lazarus in the Bible? And when he
Yeah.
yeah. And that story took on a whole new meaning for me going through this, because I mean it was really dark times, and why did I have to go through this, and coming out on the other side, and it's really something, really
One
something.
thing that I see now, and it's so difficult because I wish I could have seen it in the middle of the muck, like
Mm,
in the worst of the worst. I wish I could have seen this, but I couldn't see it until now. And I see it so clearly now that it was necessary. Everything that has happened to me, all the bad, was
mm-hmm.
necessary to make me the human that I am today, and
Oh
to
yes.
bring me to the place that I am now, because now I'm helping other people. If I hadn't gone through that, if I didn't know what bipolar felt like, I couldn't relate to the people in the trenches. And because I know, I'm not just sitting here going, I have my master's degree in clinical counseling.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel? No, I know. I've been there. It's horrible. It's absolute torture. And so I had to go through that to be able to get to the place now where I can help others. And so now I see that it's
Absolutely.
necessary.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
believe it's necessary for you. You wouldn't be having this YouTube channel. You wouldn't be having these
Right.
interviews. You wouldn't be helping other people if you
Yes.
hadn't gone through that horrible moment.
Yes. Yes. You are so right. You are so right. And while those times, I mean, they were the worst times of my life, I am thankful for them now, because none of this, I mean, my life has completely, I'm a totally different person. I'm doing things I never thought I'd be able to do, never be interested in doing. And yeah, absolutely, you are right about that. Okay, so you said you went from standard American crap food diet day in and day out overnight.
Yeah.
What was your adaptation like?
Um, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I was already suffering from the symptoms of multiple sclerosis. I just didn't know it.
Okay.
And so I had muscle and body aches all over. I was taking 800 milligrams of ibuprofen every day just to be able to walk from the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen, to go to the grocery store, to drive my kid to school, to do just
Hmm.
basic laundry and dishes and cooking. I was a miserable person, and I chalked it up to, I'm just getting old, because I was
Mm,
40 and I was just like,
okay.
I'm just 40. This is what 40 looks like. This is what 40 feels like. And of course I already had, I was already very lethargic from the bipolar disorder. I could sleep for 13 hours a day, and then sleep 8 hours that night. Like I could sleep all the time. And so for me, it was just a new pile of horrible.
Okay.
And it wasn't, it was a horrible transition. It was very difficult, but it wasn't difficult compared to my life, if that
Hmm.
makes any sense.
No, it
Um,
makes sense to me. Yes. Yes.
and I knew what I was doing, thankfully, because I had my brother, had gone through it before me. And so I was able to kind of, message him and say, what's up with my poop? Why is it mushy? Why is,
Okay.
what's going on? And so, and then I had him telling me, I don't know why. I've even asked him, why did you tell me 50% animal meat and 50% animal fat? He goes, I don't know. I was just trying to give you an answer to shut you up. And so I was
Okay.
like, okay, well,
And it was the right answer. It was
it was the right answer. And I've been eating that way for 3 years now, over 3 years now.
yeah. Okay, so coming from those highly palatable foods. And you work with people with food addiction or processed food addiction and sugar now. Were you struggling with that? Was there a part of you that was still really craving those highly processed foods and sugar?
Yeah, I really believe that was a gift as well. And I feel like it was directly from the Lord that I was given that gift, that I was able to see that those foods were poison. And
Hmm.
so during the adaptation phase, which I would say about 3 weeks, was when I was really craving the sugar and the carbs and everything. Um, there was this bipolar mind in me that was just like digging my heels in. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care
Hmm.
that I want that pie or ice cream or whatever. I just did it. There was a lot of just determination in me that I wasn't going back to the crazy. And then once I felt hope, and that wasn't until the end of the 4th week, but once I felt hope, it was just this little glimpse of hope for like 10 minutes. But I didn't remember ever feeling joy and hope before. And so it was such a foreign feeling to me. And once I realized that my brain was capable of feeling joy, I was hooked. It didn't matter. Nothing else mattered to me than chasing that high of that
Mm.
joy and that hope and that vision for my future. So yeah, it sucked. Yeah, it was tough, but it didn't last for long. And then I was just totally fine. And now I never have cravings. If I do, it's like I want to do an experiment to try and introduce egg yolks, you know,
Okay.
or raw dairy or something like that. Like I don't ever want an Oreo or chips or, anything like that.
Okay. So you don't do eggs then? No eggs, no dairy.
Because of the MS, for some reason, I react to everything.
Okay.
I've tried to reintroduce so many things, and it spikes my blood glucose, which
Mm.
is a sign that it's, inflammatory for my body. And
Right.
I've tried to reintroduce raw dairy. I've tried to reintroduce egg yolks. Um, I've tried to reintroduce everything, and
Hmm.
I react to everything. So I just stick
Okay.
to beef and beef fat and water.
Yes, that's all you need.
It
That's all
works.
you need.
It works.
Yeah. So what does your typical day of eating look like?
So I like to eat first thing in the morning, because I like to get it over with, so that I can
Hmm.
just get on with my day. And I don't have to like adapt my schedule to my eating. I can just have my mornings planned every single day. And so I eat, and it's a pile of ground beef, a pile of steak, and then a pile of beef fat. And the ratios vary according to what I'm going through, what I'm feeling, if I'm wanting more, if I'm wanting less. But that's what I eat every day, and I eat one time a day.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So you mentioned that your brother was carnivore first. Okay,
Yeah.
so your family was already used to him being a weirdo eating just meat, right? So
Yeah.
when
And
you hopped on board, it wasn't too much of a shock.
no, and we really behind closed doors would talk about him.
Okay.
Like he is crazy because he would send us pictures of he would eat raw ground beef.
Okay.
And we were just like, oh my goodness, like what is wrong with him? He's gone off the deep end. And then when he sent me this thing, I started doing it, and my family was really scared
Mm,
with how bad I had gotten mentally, and then with the MS physically, that nobody batted an eye. everyone was just like, do what you got to do anything you have to do to get this under control. And then, of course, whenever my bipolar symptoms resolved in April, they were like, keep going. And then when my MS symptoms resolved, they were like, this is a miracle. And so
Yes.
I haven't had any complications with my family at all. If anything, my son, like now we were at the movie theater and he got these Dove chocolate, they're like individually wrapped, like Dove chocolate pieces. And I was just like, and this was probably a year and a half ago. And I said, let me try a bite. And he goes, no, you won't be able to walk. You won't be able to walk. And I was like, oh, baby. Okay. All right. Don't worry about it. I did try a bite of it and it was like waxy and I could taste the chemicals in it and it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I only took one bite and I gave it back to him. I'm like, you can eat the rest.
Okay.
He was like, good, because I want you to be able to walk.
Oh,
so
how old is he?
He is 14 now.
Okay. All right. So he's a big boy.
Yeah. But he was 11 whenever, I couldn't walk, and it was probably really scary for him. And he was, of course, used to his whole life, me being bipolar and being in bed all day and irritable and was always snapping at him and just cranky and very short-tempered. I was always so irritable. And so now he's just like, okay, like, this is nice. This is nice having a chill mom, a loving mom, a calm mom.
Yeah.
He'll even come to me sometimes with something and he'll be like, I have to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. And then he tells me whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, we can deal with that. And he's like, really? Really? Like, you're not upset? And I'm like, no, I'm not upset. Like, it's okay. Everything's fine. And he's like, okay, this is cool.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. So is he pretty meat-based too? Pretty heavy meat?
No, and I don't really like to talk about it very much because, he's he's a baby and he's on his own journey, but he is definitely improved. And I would say he's more like keto. So he's definitely improved, and we don't have things in the house at all that like we don't have chips and soda and we don't have anything in the house. So and fortunately or unfortunately for him, he can't drive. So and he doesn't go buy his own groceries. So he eats pretty healthy.
Yeah, that's similar to my kids because I'm the mama. I do the cooking, I do the shopping. So I try really hard not to make them feel guilty if they are having something that I wouldn't eat. And I tell them it's okay to enjoy these things, because I want them to have a good relationship with food and just know that some foods are health promoting and some foods you probably shouldn't have so much of because they're going to make you feel like crap. My daughter, she knows all about it, and she's like, Mama's healthy now because she only eats meat. And and she's 8, my son's 4, and he really has a junk food tooth. If he's somewhere that he can get junk food, he makes me look so bad because he'll tell them, I'm really hungry. I need food. And he wants the Cheetos. He wants the juice boxes because I just don't have those. In those situations, I'm fine. Like if he's at someone's house, I'm like, you've got my kid. He can eat your food. I'm not gonna beat you up about it. But he'll come to me and he'll be like, Mommy, candy is really nasty. And I'm like, baby, it's okay. I know it tastes good. I know you like it, and that's fine, but you don't need to eat it all the time.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to have an open, relationship or conversation about food, because if we get too neurotic about it, you really can develop kind of a neuroses,
Yes.
around that area. And it's not healthy.
No, not at
It's
all.
way more healthy to have the child do their own experiment and have them, go with Nana and Papa and eat junk. And then they come
Right.
back and go, wow, or, like he'll say, I don't feel good. And I'm like, what did you
Yeah.
eat? And he's like, oh, I had this and oh, I had that. And I'm like,
Hmm.
maybe that's what's making you feel sick. And so giving
Yeah.
him the opportunity to be his own scientist to observe the complications or the automatic
Yeah.
reactions from eating those foods.
Yeah, because they'll figure it out. I do have trust in that they'll figure it out. And then when they're adults and they're off on their own one day, I know that if they ever find themselves in ill health, they'll always be able to think back and say, well, hey, mama, she had got really sick that one time and she just ate meat and everything was cool after that. So, that'll always be a tool that they have and they know they grew up familiar with.
And Alyssa, they are watching us.
Oh,
They
oh
are
yes.
watching our every move. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I hold on to that more than anything, that my example is louder than any words I could say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, okay, so you said you eat a pile of ground beef, a pile of steak, and a pile of beef fat. Do you ever incorporate any organs?
I don't.
Okay.
I've asked my farmer because about a year in, I had ate out of the grocery store for the whole first year. And then about a year in, because of my autoimmune disease, I started reacting to the grocery store meat. Um,
Oh.
there's some kind of a chemical that they put on it to preserve it
Mm-hmm.
in the grocery stores, and my body just hit its tolerance and could not handle it. It was terrifying. And thankfully, I was already surrounded by some really awesome carnivores, and I just went to them and was bawling my eyes out, and I was like, "Oh, I can't eat meat
Mm-hmm.
now. Like, what's wrong?" And this one of my really close friends explained to me that I needed to eat from the farm. And I was
Mm.
just like, I don't even know a farmer. Are you kidding? I don't know what to do. And she walked me through just what it's like to introduce yourself to a farmer and to have a relationship with a farmer and be able to get my food directly from a local farm. And now that's what I do. And it's totally changed everything. So
Awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Um, okay, so outside of what you usually eat, is there ever a time that you have like a carnivore splurge, like say you do a big rib roast, or is there something you really like that's like for special occasions?
Yeah. I eat everything raw.
Oh, you
Um,
do?
yeah.
Wow. Well, you didn't say that.
I know, because I don't want people to start where I'm at. I don't
Okay.
want people to hear, oh, well, that's what Emily did. So that's how you resolve bipolar disorder and that's how you resolve MS. No, I ate cooked the whole first year.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
but what happened was I realized once I was eating from the farm, because I don't recommend eating raw out of the grocery store. But once I was eating
Mm.
farm, I knew that this was the best of the best, cleanest meat.
Hmm.
I had my boots on the ground. I saw the cows. I saw the farmers. I know the
Hmm.
practices that they had.
Right.
And I need a lot of fat. So I have
Okay.
to order my fat separately, where we actually go to the butcher and we say to the butcher, we need the beef fat trimmings, and I buy it by the bag, like 5-pound
Okay.
bags of beef fat trimmings, because I can't get a steak with enough fat on it.
Okay.
I have to buy it separately to be able to supplement it so that I can have enough fat. And so I don't really digest cooked fat very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I started eating it raw, and specifically raw and frozen. So what I do
Okay.
is I cut it into little cubes, and then I put it on parchment paper and I layer it, and I put it in a container in the freezer. And then I just plop it out onto my plate, and I eat it with chopsticks, raw,
Oh,
frozen, and salted. And that's how my
okay.
body digests it the best. And so
Okay.
naturally, there were some pieces of meat on the fat. And I was just like, at first, I cut them off. And then I got a little lazy, and I was just like, oh, I'll just eat it. And then I realized, how much lazier can I be? Maybe I don't have to cook my meat.
Yeah.
So now I cut up the meat into little cubes, and I put it on parchment paper, put it in a container. So I have a separate container for meat and a separate container for fat. And I just
Okay.
put it on my plate, and I eat it raw, salted, and frozen with chopsticks.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay. Now that is fast, simple, easy. I mean, it doesn't get, you can't go through a drive-through in that time
Yeah, it is
or
so
microwave a
easy.
TV dinner. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So your profile picture, it looks like a before and an after. That there's a little bit more of you before and not
Yes,
so much of you now.
yes. I was, oh, go ahead.
No, so I was going to say, did you release fat? Did you lose weight on carnivore?
Yes. And I don't really like that part of my story very much, because my results are not typical at all.
Okay.
And
Right.
I don't really know why I dropped the weight
Hmm.
so fast. Um, the only thing that I can think of is the fat. The amount of fat that I was eating was so much, because like I don't even have the loose skin or anything.
Yeah.
It's crazy, because I lost about between 100 and 120 pounds in like
Wow.
10 months.
Oh, wow.
So I was at like, we really don't know how much I was at my highest, but about
Hmm.
250 to like 230, 240. And then
Okay.
my lowest that I got down to was like 127. Now I hang out at about 135.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so a lot of people they do come to carnivore, they come looking for a different way to eat because they are looking for weight loss. But and like you said, it's not typical. There are a lot of people that they're coming to carnivore for weight loss and they're just not losing the weight. Um, but they find that there are things so much sweeter than seeing that number on the scale go down, which I'm sure if you had stayed 250 pounds and you still resolved the bipolar and the MS, you would be totally cool. You'd be like, yeah, whatever. I don't care if I weigh this much. But that is really interesting. And, even though you may not be, most people may not be like you, I'm sure there are other people like you out there, that would have a similar experience. So that is,
And I really think I know this sounds weird, but I see, number one, the bipolar as my secret weapon, because I was able to jump in. And I also
mhm,
see my MS as my secret weapon, because it kept me in my lane. Like
yeah.
I couldn't, go crazy on yogurt and cottage cheese
Hmm.
and cream and any cheese and eggs and all of these things. I couldn't enjoy those things because I would have reactions. Like my skin would literally, like at one point I was getting scales around my eyebrows from the dairy. And then whenever I tried the eggs, I was like, oh my gosh, just so much itching. And so I'm really thankful for the autoimmune disease because it really kept me on the straight and narrow. And it was, and I was even reacting to chicken and pork and bacon. So I couldn't even do all those things that are carnivore safe, you know. Beef and beef fat was my jam, and that's what healed me and is continuing to heal me.
Yes. Wow. So what about, okay, so we talked about family. What about family gatherings or with friends when you're at social events? Do you feel like that's a challenge?
Again, the bipolar disorder is my secret weapon.
Okay.
Because I don't care what other people think.
Right.
I never have. And I believe that's part of my mental illness, is that I just, I don't even hear them. I don't even hear them. I don't even see the looks that they give me at work or, you know,
That is a superpower. That is a superpower.
It's such a blessing, you know, it's such a blessing because I talk to my clients and I know the very real feelings attached to that they want to be like everybody else. I've never been like everybody else. And so it's not a new deal for me. I've always been the outcast. I've always been the odd one out. So it's not a big deal. But I will say that whenever people do accept me, it like my heart bursts. I have a cousin who she invited me over for Thanksgiving. And I said, okay, I'll just eat before I come, you know, and I won't eat. And she was like, no, you will not. She said, you will bring your meat and you will sit at the table with us. And I was like, okay, well, it's raw and frozen. And she goes, I have a freezer, just bring it. And I was like, okay. So I brought it and I stood there in the kitchen with her while she cooked for an hour.
Yeah.
All this different stuff for her and her family. And then whenever it was time to eat, I got it out of the freezer. I plopped it onto the plate and no one said anything to me. We just sat there. I ate with my chopsticks and we sat there and had the best Thanksgiving. And it was so beautiful and nobody made me feel weird. And I was just, my heart was full.
Oh, that sounds like the best Thanksgiving. That is, yeah. Okay, so the food support groups, is that what it is? A food support group?
Yes, Saturday food support groups.
What goes on? What goes on in those?
Well, it's on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it. The replays, I record them. So I inform everybody before the meeting that, you know, this is going to be recorded. So if you want to stay anonymous, turn your camera off and change your screen name. And half of them just don't care. They just want to talk. They want to share their story. They want to share their questions. And it's literally like a support group. We have some people who share their testimony and share how this has changed their life and how they do this. And then we have other people who are struggling who ask questions about how do I get through this? How do I troubleshoot this? How do I troubleshoot that? And then we just record it and we put it up on YouTube every Saturday.
And these are people trying to transition to carnivore.
Yes. Some of them have been carnivore for a while. Some of them are keto. Some of them are still eating the standard American diet. They're just like a fly on the wall. And they're just listening. And I get emails all the time from people who watch the replays and they're like, thank you so much. I can't make the meetings, but I watch the replays and this is totally changing my life. Just because we're having an open, honest conversation. We're not having like a, you know, like a polished, you know, video. this is just raw. Like we don't script
Yeah.
anything. We literally just hit record and talk about
Mm.
the good, the bad, and the ugly of carnivore.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good thing. It's so important to have groups like that in the world because people need it, and especially during the pandemic. I'm sure so many people were just yearning for that connection, and then especially something that can be kind of on the fringe like this. And I have not met anybody in the wild yet
Yeah.
that eats the way I do. So that's
Well,
great.
and there's scientific studies that show, like, I got the book, Processed Food Addiction by Joan Ifland, and she
Yes.
talks about, our mirror neurons. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why this is so difficult, because our mirror neurons are wanting to be like everybody else that we see in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody else we see in our environment is eating cookies and ice cream and pizza, that's what we feel like we need to do. But whenever you can go to a group like this, even though it's on Zoom, it still affects your mirror neurons. And you can say,
Mm-hmm.
this is my tribe. This is what we
Yes.
do. This is what we eat. And so you can identify and you can anchor into that instead of
Mm-hmm.
anchoring into what you're seeing in your environment. Because those are the people that unfortunately are, have diabetes and, high blood pressure and
Yes.
obesity, and they're dying.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, you're definitely doing something good there with that support group. And I'm gonna have to step in one of these Saturdays and participate. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, come share your story. I would love it.
All right. Well, Emily, this has been an absolutely beautiful meeting. I'm so happy to hear your story and the happy ending. The last thing I wanted to ask you is what advice would you have for someone um, thinking about carnivore or just starting out, or someone that's just finding out that they have bipolar disorder or MS?
Start where you're at. Start where you're at. Start small. It's important to operate in success. So if you set your goal all the way up here and you're right here and you just keep jumping every day and you keep failing every day,
Mm-hmm.
you're reinforcing that you're a failure.
Mm,
If you lower that standard and you know that you're going there, you know that that's your goal, and you're not saying that's not your goal, but that you lower that goal so that you can jump, so that you can get there. And then you can push the bar the next day or the next week or the next month. But
mm-hmm.
start where you're at so that you can operate in success and you can retrain your brain to know how powerful you are. You are not a failure and you are not broken. You just need to operate in success and to keep
Mm-hmm.
those goals attainable and then push it up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. That is a good piece of advice. Absolutely. Wow. Well, Emily, you have a great rest of your day. And like I said, this was so nice. And I hope I can make it to one of those food support groups. I'm putting that on my list and I'm gonna do it.
Yes, they're every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And you
Okay.
are welcome anytime. And Alyssa, I just want to thank you so much for having this heart and this passion to have these interviews and to start this YouTube channel. I am so excited to watch you grow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That fills me with so much joy.
Good.
Oh, all right. Well, I will see you around Instagram. And for the food support groups, will that be something that I'm attending on YouTube, or is there a separate
Yes.
um
The best way to get the link for that is to go to my Instagram. It's at Carnivore
okay.
Minds, and in my links in my bio, there's a list and it says Saturday Food Support Group, and it's an easy button. So you literally just click on that, and at the bottom of it, it has a button that you can push, and it instantly puts you into the Zoom meeting.
Perfect. All right, perfect. Because I know there's going to be someone listening to this and they're like, how do I get to that meeting?
Yeah, go to my links in my bio on Instagram. That's the best way to find it. And you can watch the replays on YouTube at Center of Brilliance on YouTube.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, take care. Thank you again for meeting with me. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Okay.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Alyssa.
That's it for today. Until next time, stay meaty, stay strong, and stay inspired. Do you have a carnivore story to tell? Connect with me on Instagram at meet, M-E-A-T, Mrs. M-R-S, Grubs, Grubs, and I will add you to the list. I would love to interview you, and the world needs to know that meat heals.